the time when we were talking about encourage people to give birth. I don't know where that Mubara went, but it is important.
Actually, Felix, you brought in something very important, that even many countries that have developed is they have a population policy. If you look at China, there was a time when they noticed that you're having teenage pregnancies, you're having so much, and they came up with a law. Go to Japan, because it's not all about having a big population. It's not all about having children. You know, there's an organization I went to, it's called Marie Stops, and one of its, I think it's their mission, is to ensure that you have children by choice and not by chance. That you don't just record, hey, someone conceived. No, by choice. Choice means you plan as to when you're going to have children. So as we talk about Mother's Day, we celebrate, these are some of the pertinent issues that we should remember. Mothers contribute to a family. And a family, the smallest unit of every society.
You're reducing it to mothers. Family is not mothers.
No, I just want to drive a point.
I think it's because you're talking about Mother's Day.
Yes.
Like in this whole dialogue, I got the pictorial analogy of when you put a seed in the ground, it's going to die but grow back depending on how nutritious the soil is in which it has been put. And if that soil or that ground is very nutritious, believe you me, the seed is going to become a tree that will bear a fruit that will become nutritious, so much so that everyone will be coming to pick a fruit on that tree, and they will want to plant that very seed of that tree into another ground to cause the whole multiplication effect. And that is the crucial importance of family, that how able is the ground of family, how able, how understanding, how reasonable are our mothers and fathers for the coming generation. For the past generation, I believe they've done a good job, but there's this coming generation that needs to understand the core importance and value and purpose as to why families were designed. We see it in the Bible. They talk about spiritual leaders. If you cannot lead your own family, then you cannot lead a congregation. You know, so all these are to show you that it all starts from the ground before you can see the fruit of it.
Well, please, in a minute, yeah.
No, not even less than that, Robert. For me, I think as we talk about mothers, we have said everything about mothers because of the celebrations, but one of the things that brings out the best in motherhood is a good partner. And that's something we must not, a good partner. The reason why I earlier said mother, fathers, and what, there's a big role that complements a good mother. And that must be by the partner. It doesn't have to be a husband. The reason I'm saying partner is to cater for all other people. Well, so partners, do your role to bring out the best in mothers.
Well, thank you, Priscilla and Felix. Like we've said, let's prioritize family. Let this be a talk, a national discussion, because it's the smallest unit, yet most important towards national building. And finally also, let's please go donate blood. Yesterday on Mother's Day, I spoke to one of the senior tutors at Mengo Hospital, Mary Smutiaba, and she said we still have a number of women that die because of lack of blood after giving birth. And government cannot manufacture blood. Blood is something they have to get from you. So let's contribute to that and save mothers that die because of this. We'll return and we'll be looking at some of the stories in the print media. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Digital tax stamps are applied to goods or their packaging with security features or codes to avoid forging of goods and enable tracking and tracing capabilities.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Ekya COVID-19 kijja kugwa If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
This is Good Morning Uganda, your morning current affairs show. So please, every weekday, make it a date so that you start your day with us from 6:30, because we make sure you begin your day an informed person. So make the right choice. Look no anywhere else apart from UBC TV with Good Morning Uganda. But remember, you can even follow this show after or at your own time of convenience through our social media platforms in case you didn't catch up with us due to time and other inconveniences that could come your way. It's time now we look at some of the stories in the print media. I'm holding the New Vision. Well, a very big headline: teachers lose millions in sham loan deductions, and that is a Union Circle in spotlight over fraud accusations. Oh, for teachers, hard-earned money, and someone uses tricks there. Then SFC commandos, now a brigade. That is, there is a picture there of President Yoweri Museveni, flanked by the First Lady Janet Museveni, talk to female commandos of the Special Forces Command as they exhibit their skills during their pass out at Rufuga camp in Kiruhura district. That was on Friday. Still, the New Vision brings you Emyoga groups have saved over 10 billion. That is some of the successes there. Then we look at government to recall all land titles. Oh God. Yes, government to recall all land titles there. Why? Then governance, public management sector reforms. God has rescued me many times, says Museveni. And there is NRM strides in science and technology. Yes, Simpenda.
So in the Daily Monitor, Minister beats up 3 Anglican priests. Well, a junior minister from the Eastern region is said to have stormed the area in government vehicles before assaulting the reverends over a land dispute between the school and the church. Well, of course, in other stories, looking at the panorama, government wants at least 700 billion in supplementary budget. Wow. Health and living, pregnancy infections linked to congenital hearing impairments. And why is government taking a lot of loans? And of course, now Bobi Wine comes out to say Museveni derailing us. And of course, ICC seeks audit into wealth of LRA or when. Now inside the papers, we're looking at motorists to pay toll for Entebbe Express Highway. This has been said again and again.
Long overdue.
And Emyoga saving hit shilling 9 billion in 9 months. Of course, there's a classic photo here of Dr. Chiza Besigye and General Salim Saleh having a light moment. But of course, today in history, Nelson Mandela is inaugurated, 1994. And also in history, Winston Churchill becomes Prime Minister of Britain.
Still in the New Vision, we have anti-vaccine doctor succumbs to COVID-19. That is Dr. Stephen Kajara, who led the campaign against COVID-19. Vaccination has succumbed to COVID. We look at a segment, Know Your Member of Parliament. There we see Joan Akom Alobo, that is woman MP Soroti City. Then Esther Anyakun, that is woman MP Nakapiripirit. We look, there is Sarah Bakrati, who is woman MP Pakwach District. And today in history, it was on this date when the paper I'm holding launched their TV known as Weekly TV, but also on this very date, the 10th of May, the year 1994, Nelson Mandela became president.
Now in sports, the Daily Monitor, we're looking at a speed hunt for Cheptegei in a Strava debut there, and of course how Cobbs sealed it the game that was, I was thinking, on Saturday. Now, Mercedes Tactical Games, that is Lewis Hamilton claimed his 5th successive Spanish GP after a pit stop that his master broke. Now, of course, Vipers CEO of KCCA to keep title run edge there, and Bulega flawed but status quo maintained in FUFA SIG polls there. Now, Lady Dolphins picking up for championship charge, and Bayern Munich crowned while warming up United tame Villa there.
In the New Vision Sport, we look at why Simba is a happy man. They give you reasons there. Then this is where we want to be. That is the Star Times Uganda Premier League. Cases shown top there. Vipers second. Bulls and Mbare City. They give you how the table is standing. And yes, it's home. What is home? The New Vision brings you more of that. Well, we'll take a break, but when we return, Priscilla will be here to take you through, that is traffic updates, to know how fast, how safe to get to your destination. But also don't forget, we have an expert when it comes to issues of weather. She'll also carry on after Priscilla, and you'll know what do you have to do regarding the, of course, the weather rock that day. Good morning, keep it on UBC TV. We'll return shortly.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Has anyone seen Bob?
Over here!
How did you get in there?
With my Airtel Money MasterCard.
But you don't even have a bank account.
Well, it's not a card. It's virtual, so no plastic, and it's safer.
But what are you doing there?
I want to buy Nancy a birthday gift, book my flight tickets, renew my Big Click subscription, and order shipments.
The Airtel Money MasterCard. It's not a card, but works just like one. Get one on the Airtel Money menu on your phone.
Digital tax stamps are applied to goods or their packaging with security features or codes to avoid forging of goods and enable tracking and tracing capabilities.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is a wonderful Monday morning as we are preparing for a week that will go down in the history of the Republic of Uganda as the week in which we had the swearing in of the president of the nation of Uganda, and that is President-elect Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni. We have to look at the traffic updates, and please note that in today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and probably Thursday, traffic is going to be interrupted, and here on Good Morning Uganda, we're going to be giving you those traffic interruptions as and when they come through from the Uganda Police Traffic Department. But of course, just to remind you that you must still be safe on the road, and most especially in this week when we have different forces that are going to be keeping law and order. You must have your national ID on you at all times this week. You must have your driving permit on you at all times this week, because those documentations, in one way or another, they may stop you and ask you for a documentation and you don't have it, which will cause the law to act in order. So please put that into consideration. And also the people who have cars on the road most recently, and when it comes to oil engines and changing your oil, it's been very, very difficult for you. But we have to do consideration that your engine is the heart of your vehicle, and if you don't take care of your engine, then you're definitely going to be having challenges in the near future with your vehicle management, especially on the road. Now, I just want to give a little tip for engine users that do drive Toyota Premier cars, especially from 2007 onwards. There is a consideration of oil. Not every oil works in your engine, and not every engine can actually take in any oil that you pick up from any shelf. So you have to know exactly the kind of car and its model that you have, and you have to know that each model takes in a different type of oil engine. And now we want to look at the Toyota Primos from 2000 onwards to 2013. Those of you that have 15, 16, or even 2021, it's okay. There's an oil consideration, Helix Ultra Professional AG, and that goes for 5W230. It's a premium oil that you must have in your car. It's designed to give the demand of the every equipment in your engine to give the satisfaction and the power it needs to run your engine for your Toyota Primo. So please have that consideration. Helix Ultra ECT3 is another one that you can consider if, of course, depending on the money that you have in your pocket, any of those two that can work. It has to be Helix and it has to be Ultra for those kind of cars. We'll be giving you more of these tips as time goes by. I want to come from the area of Chirinya and also maybe Nambole and trying to get into the heart of the city from where I am. Now, speaking of Nambole, the National Stadium has been one of those talking points in the world of sports, and happy to note that the pressure had been where we're going to have our qualifiers games, but the stadium for Chitende has been cleared as the place that will be hosting the nation's games for qualifiers when it comes to FIFA Qatar 2022. Now, looking at where we are this morning on Chireka Road, you do have some red zones in the area of Chirinya that are building up on both sides of the road, which means that there is a lot of traffic jam on this Chireka route that comes in brings in traffic all the way from Boyogere and the likes, that goes down Nambole National Stadium. Equally, there's another direct route from Boyogere that intercepts with the bypass, and you get to see that on this interception route you only do have traffic away from this roundabout, then you get to have it building into the areas of Chireka and the likes. Away from it, just a sneak peek onto the bypass. For Namuongo Road, it seems to be clear for the bypass. On either side, it seems to be clear interacting with the Nambole Stadium. But equally, when we go to Bugolobi, Boyogere, in the trading center, you don't seem to be experiencing so much traffic jam, except of course at this cross junction here, which takes route to Buto and those other areas. But coming back here and looking at these two main routes, we're looking at Chireka, and I want to see also the main road, which is the Kampala Jinja Highway, and how the traffic is flowing adjacent to these routes, so that you can make a better decision in comparison of the routes. Now, when you look at Chireka, we have that traffic coming in from Chirinya, and it continues to build on past Chireka High School, whereas opposite it, adjacent to it, the main route in Chireka Trading Center seems to be clear, of course, only at these interceptions of the roads that take in traffic to Namugongo and the likes. Those are ones that will bring in traffic. Equally, Chireka Road will also do interrupt with the traffic on the Kampala Jinja Highway, but away from the trading center, looks like the rest of Chireka is a clear route, which does not seem to be the case on the Chireka Road, which would have been your alternative route this morning. So advisably, you'd rather stay in the main route than come and use Chireka Road. But let's see how the main route does perform against Chireka Road. The Kampala Jinja Highway, when you look at Banda, of course you do have the trading center at Banda. There's a taxi stage there, and the Chambogo University area, residentials, campuses, hostels, all these do contribute to how traffic builds up in the area of Banda. But surprisingly, again, the red zone, we are only seeing it to the connecting road to Chambogo. But the rest of it seems to be clear. Of course, the taxi stages on either side of the route will build up on the jam. And also, this part of the road is under construction by KCCA. They're doing some repairs there. And so that would have been the other contribution to the flow of traffic this morning. But when you look at the adjacent thereof would be Chireka Road around Ministry of Works and Transport. You can see the red spots are continuing. Red into orange into another red, which means that Chireka Road may not be the best alternative. You might want to stay on the main route. So when we stick to the main route, past Roofings Limited, you come down to Euroflex. Now we are entering Nakawa business area. We get to see some of these red zones starting to pick up. Now, of course, because of the industrialization in this particular area of Nakawa, you do have industries that have started doing what they must do, and that is getting goods in and out of the industry onto their clients, and majorly interfacing with trucks or canters, big vehicles, of course. Now, these, of course, will have to interrupt the flow of traffic. Equally, there is a tendency for us to have about 3 lanes of traffic that is going into Kampala, and then 1 lane of traffic going out of Kampala, and that also usually affects the flow of jam here. Trucks that park on the road, some get stuck there, and that usually does affect. But I think the red zones are quite small compared to the road that we are trying to look at. But we continue and see how it's actually flowing in the whole of Nakawa. You just have the red zones building up to the Spear Motors. Now, when we get to Spear Motors, you get to see the red zones, of course, have to be there, but every single morning there is a traffic officer that comes in and manages the traffic coming in from Tinda, traffic coming in from Nakawa, Banda, Chireka Boyegere, equally the traffic that is using the back routes of Chireka Road into Chinawataka Road and are trying to access Spear Motors. Equally the traffic that is coming in from Kampala, and they're trying to get onto these other different parts of the district. So we get to see around Nakawa Vocational, you get to see some orange, and then the reds are for the traffic that is going into Nakawa Banda, and also you do have some red zones for traffic that is coming in from Tinda, majorly residential, so they're trying to get to work. Now, the adjacent route that we were giving consideration was the one that now leads us into Chinawataka. But just to have a fallback into it and what it looks at, we left it at Ministry of Works and Transport, which has a red zone, and then the traffic starts to free up as soon as you hit Chinawataka. Now, following Chinawataka Road, trying to connect to the Kampala Jinja Highway, we get to see Chinawataka area is a clear route. Of course, there's a sharp corner there that causes you to actually slow down, and that will cause a bit of a jam build up. Away from that, we then use this very route to connect back to Spear Motors, and that is going to have some bit of jam because you have to patiently wait for which routes are allowed and managed by the traffic officers to be able to guide you accordingly. Now, when we move away from that, sticking to the Kampala-Jinja highway, we then get to see the red zones building up. Now, interesting to note, you'd have expected the red zones to be building up for traffic coming into the heart of the city, but we do have traffic that is then building up going into Nakawa, and that is from Lugogo, probably from Moobs and the likes. And this traffic is in particular areas, most especially with the interception of the traffic lights there at the Nakawa market. Of course, if you want to look at the back route of Nakawa, which would have been Katalima Road, which is also under repair roads right now with KCCA, they have done some cuts there, and you'll be expecting some heavy duty work on the coming days. But back route of it would be Naguru Road, which has a little bit of a red zone, and that is around the Nakawa market. Obviously, trucks are offloading goods for the vendors to be able to sell those products to the other people. Now, Naguru Road will bring you into the ShopRite Road, but this is majorly and only a good alternative for everyone who wants to get into Nakawa. If you want to get into back to Jinja Road, of course, there is an alternative here on the road for you to make a U-turn and then get back onto the Kampala-Jinja highway. Now, you would have avoided this standstill traffic that is happening here if you use Katalima Road, Naguru Road, ShopRite Road, and then you can connect back to the Kampala-Jinja highway. In the areas of Lugogo, you get to see the traffic is actually quite clear. Kampala-Jinja highway, we get to see the rest of it past New Vision, is clear past Uganda Management Institution, is clear up until we start to interact with the roundabout that brings in traffic from Old Port Bay Road, brings in traffic from Wampeo Avenue, and brings in traffic from the Kampala-Jinja highway, and it's going to be heavy and standstill for some minutes. That is going to be the challenge there for you to consider. Now, you may just have to have some sort of patience, but away from that, when you also interact with the Jinja Road traffic lights, they also have some red zones there, so it's going to be affecting the time that you're going to be reporting to wherever it is that you're going to report to in case you want to get past this area. But when you look at the other routes that are adjacent, you have the Kampala Kingdom route, you have Nile Avenue, which seems to be clear. So the inwards of this area are actually clear routes for you to use in terms of alternatives. Those are the traffic updates from us here at Good Morning Uganda. We trust that you will have a safe day on the road. Molen is here to give us weather updates. I mean, we were in the zoo, we were to Uganda Wildlife Education Center, and everywhere I looked, I saw nature, I saw environment, and I saw the weather, and I realized that, wow, just a small thing such as weather, nature, and environment do affect what we are and where we are.
Yes, very right, Priscilla. Talking about how weather, nature, and environment are related. You guys were at the zoo, and you find that changes in weather or even climate changes do not affect just the human beings, but also the entire ecosystem, the animal species, and we've lost most of those to extinction, especially due to climate changes. And this could still happen because the climate is changing, and because of the different weather conditions, you get to see that other animals are also affected at the same time.
All right. So you've talked about animals. Why did they choose Entebbe in particular to have the zoo there? Did it have anything to do with weather?
Yeah, you see, they do have a selection of how they are gazetting most of these animal species, and they could just have found the right place and also the space to have most of the animals gazetted, because you find that they really need also a clear open ground to be able to gazette some of these animals. So I think it's probably something they looked at in terms of space and being open in nature.
All right, but I also assume it's close to the water body that is necessary for these animals when it comes to drinking. Everyone knows 8 liters, I mean 8 glasses of water a day for a human being. Now I'm imagining for an animal like the chimpanzees we saw, we were told they take porridge. So many cups of porridge a day, which was a very interesting, thing that we did. If you want to have a flashback of what we are talking about, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is UBC Television Uganda, or on our Facebook channel, which is UBC TV, and look for Good Morning Uganda Friday's edition and catch up with what Molen and I are talking about. But keep following us for updates and more conversations on our social media handles. On Twitter, we are at UBC TV Uganda.
Yes, this morning we will start off with what has been bringing us rains this weekend, and I can tell you most areas within Uganda have had to deal with those rainy conditions, and that was just not just morning but even in the afternoon. It has been kind of crazy, I'll put it that way. But let's take a look at the system that has been bringing all these craziness. Now we do have a high pressure system. This high pressure system is just over the tip of South Africa, and that has brought in a lot of alerts throughout most areas within Africa. And I can tell you this is extending all the way up to the East African side, and because of that we've seen also some alerts, and Kenya was giving an alert for the weekend, and that is still running to up to Tuesday actually. There is that alert we'll be showing you on the screen. So that is the alert that Kenya Met Department was giving, and that started for heavy rains over the weekend for most areas within Kenya. But at the same time, weather is something that is also close and similar when it comes to related areas, and like we like to call it within the meteorology sector, it is the butterfly effect. You find that the weather that is happening right in South Africa or even Kenya could as well affect what we are dealing with right now. So that is the alert that Kenya was giving for heavy rainfall, for people to be careful on the roads, but still we also got those heavy rains throughout most areas, most especially the Lake Victoria Basin, and that is what we were dealing with. And most of that effect was coming in due to that high pressure system that I was telling you about that is building up over South Africa. And because of that, we will be seeing much more push coming from this area also towards our country, and that might still be bringing us some rains, most especially across the Lake Victoria Basin that we're having even right now. We do have those heavy rains that are starting to build up, that is across the island, and we'll be seeing more of those rains coming in, moving even through parts of Kampala and Mbarara. We're already having those rains coming in through much of southern Uganda. We'll be dealing with most of those rains. And right now I can tell you we still have that deep low pressure system over the Indian Ocean. Take a look at where those colors are really deep. This is where the rainy system is building up, and that is mostly mostly where there are much more rains. Now where you see that deep red orange color, these are very severe rains in this area, and there is a low pressure system. So this kind of system just brings in all the moist winds coming in to join in here, and that is responsible for that deep heavy rains over here. And now lucky enough this is over the ocean, but if it would have been over the land, it would be much more dangerous and causing in alerts. But you see that system is still coming in towards our area, and it is now across coastal Somalia. Mogadishu also receiving some of that this rainfall that is coming in from the ocean towards the country, and still much of that will be making its way across coastal Kenya. So there is still a forecast for those rainy conditions. Now see the system that is building up across Lake Victoria. This is where we're already having rains as well, much heavier rains across the island of Lake Victoria, and that could also mean that most of the islands, Kalangala, could be receiving rains even right now. And also the same system that is bringing us rains that is across southwestern Uganda, and also parts of central and Lake Victoria Basin. The parts of Tororo, Jinja as well within the eastern parts of the Lake Victoria Basin could be looking at cloudy conditions right now, but there are rains coming your way this morning. We also have that area, Masaka, Rengo. You have rains coming in your way this morning, and those will be developing more across the afternoon. Now we do have a system that is building up across the Choga region. That is also going to be bringing us rains later on in the day. It is starting to develop up. Same condition for western Uganda. We had those rains late nights for mid-western Uganda, that is across Hoima, parts of Masindi, but we do see a system that is starting to build up, and that will be propagating westwards. It could be bringing us rains this afternoon, most especially across the western sector. Now looking at what we have elsewhere in the country, most places are clear right now. with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Much sunshine though, that is across the northern part of the country. But then don't get too comfortable because we do have a forecast for showers in the afternoon over that area. Now we will move further and look at most of the systems that are developing, that are leading into our forecast that we have today across most areas within the country. We have that system also coming from the northern part of the continent. We do have rains that are starting to develop from the northern sector, and those will be pushing in also. Could be the system that will be bringing us rains, most especially across the Karamoja region. But it is also starting to develop right now. We do have most areas in the red, orange, deep weather systems that are starting to develop, and that is a system we could be looking at developing and could also affect some of the areas within our country. Most especially that would be the northeastern part of the country, which is within the Karamoja region. Now, as we monitor this system, I can tell you we do have rains coming in still across the central and eastern part of the country. We do have that system coming in from the Lake Victoria Basin and could actually develop and give us more rainfall. We'll move further and look at our forecast this morning, where we are most likely having those rains develop, like I've told you, across central parts of Lake Victoria, that is Kampala, and also parts of the regions within the area. Now we're forecasting a maximum, temperatures going up to 20 degrees Celsius. That will be across Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe. We do have Wakiso as well, but with rainy conditions in the forecast this morning. And we'll also be looking at parts of central northern Uganda, that is Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, where we're having those rains, and also those will be accompanied by thunder showers. We have temperatures in the morning expected to go up to 24 degrees Celsius. And we do expect, that is Wobulenzi, Luwero, Buluri, Nakaseke, eastern parts of central. We do expect isolated rains as well. Those will be across several places within that area, and temperatures will go up to 20 degrees centigrade. Eastern Uganda, we have a forecast for rainy conditions as well this morning. That is across Seroti, Katakwi, Amuria. We do have Kumi as well, with temperatures going up to 22. Very chilly weather even right now, but that will only stay at 22 degrees this morning. Now, very cold weather still across the eastern part of Lake Victoria Basin, like we were showing that cloud coming in, already dumping in some cold weather, and temperatures will be at 20 this morning. We're also likely to have those rains develop more across the area, mostly scattered. That is 30 to 50% of the area receiving this rainfall. And we also have Mbale, Bududa, Bukwa and Sironko. We do expect rains, and those will be accompanied by thunderstorms. We do have a cold morning as well. Temperatures will only remain at 20 this morning, and most of those areas will be seeing rains already developing and coming your way this morning. Now, Mbarara, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, and the rest of southwestern Uganda, we have a forecast for rainy conditions, still accompanied by thunderstorms. You do expect that lightning, and also temperatures will be up to 21. A normal morning, but in terms of temperatures, but we will be expecting rains as well over that area. Now we move further, even for parts of southwestern Uganda, close to Mbarara. We do expect rains developing, and that system will be going down up to Kabale Highlands, that is southwestern, the extreme southwestern part of Uganda, where we do expect those rains. Now we'll keep showing you most of these updates. Follow the conversation on hashtag UBC Good Morning Uganda, and you can also follow me on my Twitter handle, that is at Modern Weather, for most of these weather updates this morning. Good morning to you. Do stick around. We have the agenda coming up and most of the programming that is coming your way this morning. Good morning to you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Tulantende ku program obulamu bwo.
was brought to you by...
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA visit.
But you can access URA online. Why pay a visit?
To know more about the Kakasa Business Solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program, and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Digital tax stamps are applied to goods or their packaging with security features or codes to avoid forging of goods and enable tracking and tracing capabilities.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Has anyone seen Bob?
Over here!
How did you get in there?
With my Airtel Money MasterCard.
But you don't even have a bank account.
Well, it's not a card. It's virtual, so no plastic. And it's safer.
But what are you doing there?
I want to buy Nancy birthday gift, book my flight tickets, renew my Big Click subscription, and order shipments.
The Airtel Money MasterCard. It's not a card, but works just like one. Get one on the Airtel Money menu on your phone.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome back from the traffic and of course the weather. Every morning, do not miss that segment because it's really important for you to know how you're going to plan business, how you're going to move, what you should move with. Should you carry gumboots? Should you carry a cardigan, a jacket, a raincoat? All that because you keep it on UBC TV and also Good Morning Uganda to help you ensure that you don't carry an umbrella and it doesn't rain. So one there to take you through the weather forecast. And of course, Traffic Preset does it very well for you to know how fast, how safe, and what to avoid as you get to work, not to be caught up with jam. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda agenda, where we look at issues of national concern, but we always have a guest in studios and we discuss with whom we share later on. Sometimes we also have phone calls, you join the discussion and we get to know your views and opinions on the topic of discussion. Now, it was on the 7th of this month when Parliament actually passed the budget for the financial year 2021-2022, a budget of 44.7 trillion. This is going to be funded both domestic and also, of course, we have our development patterns that we'll be giving in and loans therefore will fund this budget. But we always talk about Uganda as a country blessed with a very young population. That 70% of our population are youth. Now, issues of budget and taxation have an impact because a budget is simply what you expect, your expected revenue and your planned expenditure. But remember, revenue means people are going to pay to fund a portion of this budget, about 21 trillion to that. And of course, expenditure is the priorities. Are they in line with what is a priority to the youth? Are these taxes? Recently we saw the minister present and Parliament passed 5 taxes that we are going to also be discussing. What is the impact to the youth? And joining me on set is Emmanuel Ajar, who is the Executive Director of Open Forum Initiative. He is a youth, and when we are discussing issues of youth, I'm always honored to discuss them with a youth. Many a times we've seen youth issues discussed with people that don't fall under that bracket between 18 and about 30. Good morning, Emma.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. Of course, as a young person, I'm very glad to always dissect some of the issues that will directly impact on young people. Yes, thank you.
Let's begin by understanding, just to give a shape to our discussion and our viewer to understand better. When you talk about Open Forum Initiative, is this an non-government organization? Is it a government body? You know, what do you do?
The Open Forum Initiative is a non-profit policy advocacy organization, that works, especially to advocate for policies, or fiscal policies, for effective public finance management. And we focus on young people to be able to garner that change that we need in those areas. Because for a long time, issues to do with public finance management, especially, okay, let me talk about fiscal policies. Young people are always excluded from that particular area. People think that it's something best left to economists, something best left to government. But then when you're in a country that has about 75% of the population being young people, they will be impacted by the decisions taken depending on the kind of policies that are passed, those fiscal policies. So eventually, young people will either directly be impacted or indirectly impacted. Yes.
Emma, let's look at the young people. Good, you said, as a young person.
Yes.
Have they interested themselves in knowing, or we see them more in politics and what, where they are the majority? Looking at issues of taxes, budget proposals, to what extent have the youth piqued interest of the young people in Uganda?
First of all, I would say that young people are actually participating, because a process like the budget is a national, is something that happens every year. And the process of the budget, the way it is executed, right from the planning stage, always has avenues from the local level, from the parish village level, where young people can inform those processes. Now the challenge only comes when they are not aware, and because in certain cases they do not know how to inform, when and who to go to when they are to factor in their concerns and interests. So I would only say that the biggest challenge is, one, is information, yes, and then the capacity for young people to be able to dissect some of these issues and include their interests into the planning stages. Because in most cases, when you visit engagement processes that are at the planning stage of the budget, right from the village level, you'll find that a number of people who are present there are more women and older persons and people who are much more concerned about societal problems. Yes. So I think that the best we can do, and this is why we are here, is to inform these young people, and we do so via our interventions that we design at the organization level. We are working in about 4 sub-regional areas, and we engage with young people at the local government level, and we tell them, look here, no one is going to come and help you to change. And the budget is one of the most important fiscal policy tools that the government can actually use to change your life. The rest of the things that you can make noise about after the budget has passed will just have to wait, because at the end of the day, anything that is developmental needs to be financed, and the budget is the avenue of financing such. Yes.
Also, before we really dive into the impact to the youth and challenges, let's look at capacity to understand. Have you ever been in some of these local council consultations? Because it is a process that begins right from grassroots consultations. And what is the capacity of an ordinary youth in Uganda? When I talk about ordinary, I don't refer to the elite that have degrees in this, but the ordinary youth in Uganda to understand the budget and also the process, and be therefore relative in giving a submission that is worth taking.
First of all, in my own understanding and experience with the work we have done and interaction with young people, both educated and uneducated, we've come to understand that, well, the budget, when presented right from the smallest documents, the first initial documents, before even the, okay, let's start from the national budget framework paper. When you're presenting and engaging young people, you must be able to know the target, the kind of people you're going to deal with. If we've had our work in local areas, in village areas, and those people are able to articulate their problems the way it is, And that is why when you look at the budget process, those engagement processes at the parish level and the like will only be open to the extent that those young people can actually express themselves the way they are without a lot of jargon, economic and statistical jargon that is always, you know, on the budget, on those budget documentation. Of course, you need to break it down to them that, you know, for your parish, for your village, this is what is expected in the health sector. I'll give you an example. We had we implementing a project in a patch that was supposed to strengthen and build the capacity of young people to inform their budget process, the local budget process from the local government level. And these young people were able to come. It was a discussion, a focus group discussion, where they bring out their issues. And these young people were able to raise the fact that, you know, our hospital used to have a health corner for young people. We wouldn't feel free going to access sexual reproductive health services. When you're seeing the older people there, you would feel a little bit shy to express yourself. But the fact that this health corner was taken away, we were challenged. We were having challenges, a barrier to access those services without being afraid. And so we want that, that health corner reinstated. And they were able to express their concerns, document it, table it in their local government council when they were planning for the budget, and I think it was considered, it was budgeted for. And this current financial year, the health corner was reinstated. So that's the best example I can give. You need to just express yourself as a young person, the way you see your problem at your local level. You don't need to come to Parliament to do that. The processes are always open at the local government level, depending on the information that is available and the time and when, who, where. Yes, such interventions are taking place.
Well, let's look at why the national budget is important, or why a young person should interest themselves in the national budget. Knowing that statistics from URA actually are very clear that people that pay tax directly, both that is at single level and also company level, what in the language that I wanted to dodge, that is referred to, that is, we only have 1.5 million taxpayers who do that directly, both natural and unnatural persons. So what I wanted to break down, because I thought it's better, I can't avoid that. Yes. When we refer to natural and unnatural persons, a company is regarded as a person, but remember, this is not a person doing direct, like a trader bring in goods and then they pay tax. So that's what we refer to both natural and unnatural persons. They're just 1.5. Yeah. So to a young person, maybe they pay tax just not direct, buy a liter of fuel, sugar, and all that. So how does this then interest them?
You see, not only even young people, but citizens in general. Okay, no one really loves to pay tax. That's a fact.
Even the biblical days.
Yes, even the business people will always try to use avenues available to plan their taxes such that they can pay as little tax as they can.
People believe tax reduce profits because you pay tax on profits you've made.
Yes, but people will always look at you know, any opportunity to plan their taxes, to reduce the amount of taxes that they can't pay, any human being. Now, you need to incentivize. You need to, as a government, you need to give them the motivation. And that is where services comes in. And that is why taxes are unique, not only for generating revenue, but because they provide the opportunity for government to create a bridge, to create a relationship where we are going to give you some of the money that we've been able to make from our businesses, certain percentage, but I should expect good roads. I should expect that hospitals have medicines, and I should expect that our teachers in schools are paid. And so really the motivation is the one that is needed. If you interact with we had a chance to go to these business development spaces in Kampala when we were carrying out a survey in 2018, where young businesses set up. If you know, I don't want to mention them by name, but there are spaces where young people, small companies rent small spaces, and most of them are youth, and they are really running ambitious projects. But one of the biggest issues when you question them about this company of yours, how are you handling taxes? What are your plans to deal with taxes? And the first thing they will tell you is that, is there any way you can help me to avoid, to circumvent this? Because some of them have had not so very good experiences. But I would love to also commend URA that they've, with minimal human resource, they've been able to carry out what we call taxpayer education and decentralize some of the things that would be a barrier for someone to formalize and therefore pay taxes. The missing link is that we need more information, especially to businesses run by young people, especially to even young people. Initiatives like our organization, initiatives like the National Youth Council needs to focus on, to give some time to also focus on issues pertaining to revenue. People have always not factored that in. People don't discuss
let's
it
get
more.
this clear also.
Yes.
When you talk about young people having businesses,
yes,
how then do you justify this small figure of 1.5?
You see,
is it that the young people are dodging taxes? 1.5 million of the population that have over 40, maybe about 45 million Ugandans. And one would first think that maybe because the big percentage, the youth, may not be employed. But with your explanation, it shows that these people are employed and they're taxable.
You see, like I said, 75% of our population is below 30 years. And majority of it is a dependent subpopulation. Those youth, they are dependent. Majority of them are also informally employed. You find them in agriculture and other small businesses. It's only a few who are captured in formal employment. And that number captures direct registration. And it shouldn't only focus on young people, it should focus on the entire population. The only unfortunate issue is that most of the young people are dependent. Those who are gainfully employed are few. Even those who are employed, because majority of them are informally employed in agriculture and those household kind of businesses that are attached to households are underemployed. So we wouldn't look at them as rightful taxpayers, and that's why it's important for government to invest in human capital development. And that's why we now reflect on the budget. When you look at the current budget, you need to reflect on the fact that if you invest, a young population is good, but it depends on the kind of investments that you channel to transform them, because they won't stay young. Eventually, they will either transform into a labor force that is well educated, skilled, which would eventually be able to work in the economy and be gainfully employed, which again would be able to provide you with the tax base that you need. And that is why we now reflect on the national budget. Yes. So if you, for example, look at the budget of this year, the current budget that was approved recently, you need to reflect on something when you look at it. First is that the past year, which I always prefer to refer as the year of the pandemic, 2020, ushered in a decade of ambitious action to realize the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. These are 10 years, 2020 to 2030. So, and if you look at the fact that the current budget should factor in COVID-19, and then NDP 3, which was approved last year, you need to carefully also realize that in order for you, because COVID-19 was a setback, so the issue you've just mentioned about the 1.5 million taxpayers directly relates to one, factoring in COVID-19, factoring in whether or not we shall be able to realize the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, and which is why now you should look at the kind of investments that have been put in place in areas of, for example, human capital development, mostly to support young people to realize their potential, which eventually would give us the kind of workforce that we need as a country and the tax base that we need.
That was said. Let's also, for a young person, we know we have the political side or political wing,
yes,
but also have technocrats.
Yes.
And for every country, they have a vision. They look at where they want the country to get for a specific period. Uganda have the National Planning Authority. We also have, now we are going to phase 3 of the National Development Plan, which is kicking off. Looking at our budget and the National Development Plan phase 3, are they in tandem? Are they moving together? Is this reflected for the benefit of the young people?
Yes. First of all, broadly, the NDP3 was approved last year, and the budget, the current the budget for financial year 2021-2022, which has just been approved, will be the second annual revenue and expenditure plan that will actually actualize the realization of whatever has been put in NDP3. And for me, I would say NDP3 already is in process. It has already started. For example, the current budget, one of its unique features is that it's no longer sector-based, it's program-based. And if you analyze it in terms of figures, you would actually say that somehow it looks like, because these are the first strides, it's only the second annual, it's only the second budget that is working towards realizing the goals of NDP3. The biggest challenge is how this budget has been financed. It will eventually have implications on even its implementation.
Let's dive into that more. I find that really interesting.
Yes.
How it's going to be financed.
Yes, because if you look at our budget of 44.7 trillion, this current one that has been approved, it is less by around 714 billion compared to last year's budget. And URA is expected to contribute about 20.8 trillion to this budget, and 200 billion will be got from the petroleum fund. But the saddest reality is that 10.8 trillion will be borrowed. And already, the 10.8 trillion that will be borrowed domestically. 6.1 trillion will be borrowed from abroad. Now, the issue with the 10.8 trillion being borrowed domestically is that, you see, when government comes to borrow from the domestic market, you are competing with government. The people who are going to lend to government are going to weigh their options. Which one is much more secure to lend to?
Of course, government takes priority.
Yes, because they are much more secure to lend to. And that will crowd out private sector credit. And this is where now you bring back those young businesses, the youth, the SMEs run by young people who are looking for some credit to run their business, having been hit by COVID-19, having missed out from the stimulus packages. This is now where they come back. Money is lent to government, and they feel that, you know, we cannot lend to you. They feel that their problems are too small to be solved. They look at the bigger borrower, which is government.
Does that also affect the interest rates?
Of course, and that is why we say crowding out private sector credit. So how the budget is being, this whole budget has an implication in how, from where it's being financed and even its implementation. So, and then you find that in the budget, about 15.1 trillion, which is about, I think, 38%. The biggest share is going to financing, is going to debt-related payments. And so it really worries me, because some of these loans, it's not that the 15.1 trillion is paying for the loan that we took during COVID, the debt, no. These are loans of 10 years ago, but also the fact that just between last year and now, the level of borrowing has really skyrocketed. And as a young person, I would be concerned. Why? Because I'm at the center of all this. Why? 20 years, 30 years, when eventually, you never know, we will be leaders of this country. The biggest challenge for us will be that we will deal with loans.
But well, this issue of loans is something that really we've discussed. People have talked about, technocrats, politicians. Do you think having a big debt burden is the problem, or putting to use the loans that we get?
People borrow. Even first world countries have loan obligations. The US that we admire, and other countries. But the issue is that what do we use for the loans? And borrowing is good, but you can't borrow. Even personally, if you're to take loans, you can't take. You go to this place, you take a loan. You go to the other place, you take a loan.
If I'm making reasonable investments.
Well, at the moment, you can even see that the gains are not matching at a certain point. They are there, but they are slow. And secondly, some of the absorption capacity is low. Do you know that there are some loans that we have taken that we haven't, it hasn't been disbursed to us, but we are already paying obligations, interest rate payments, and other fees in regard to those loans that we've taken. That is where the challenge is. So the huge appetite for borrowing must be followed by a good absorptive capacity, good investment, so that we get the returns. That is briefly what I can say about it.
Well, looking at this budget, what are some of the opportunities that are there for the youth? Because we've looked at the ugly, let's look at also the positiveness into this financial year 2021-2022 budget that was passed by Parliament.
Relating it to young people, I would look at the program now. It's called Human Capital Development. It has water and environment, it has social development, it has education and health. And because that one will directly have an implication on young people. First of all, I would love to look at the health budget. You very well know that COVID-19 has had its huge impact. And one of the biggest challenges for young people, because majority of the people who have been impacted, even health-wise, are youth. Why? There was a time during the pandemic when there was lockdown, when essential services could not be accessed appropriately by young girls who are pregnant, you know, things like sexual reproductive health, family planning. And the fact that COVID-19 risked the ability to preserve essential health services and scale it up. The budget, this current budget, I would love to commend government, especially there's an allocation of, I think, 500 billion for the provision of vaccines. But one other thing that we need to look at is the provision of family planning services, which was hit during the pandemic. I think there's a budget cut on the budget that covers things to do with sexual reproductive health, which would present a challenge, would put about 300,000 mothers at risk of not having access to essential services. Two, it would also increase maternal and child mortality. And then even vaccinations, it would risk about 1.3 children not having access to, you know, DPT vaccines, which would be a challenge. So we think that government should consider more of strengthening the response, but realizing that it's not only COVID-19 now. When we focus on COVID-19, we'll leave other things like sexual reproductive health, and then eventually we would still fail at realizing what we prefer, what we would love to realize. Secondly, you look at education. Everyone was concerned because our children, our young people stayed out of school for so long, and many of them are even pregnant now. Now, we need to consider the fact that that sector's response in dealing with the problems that have already happened arising from the COVID-19, the allocation, we feel that, one, the allocation to education and health should have been the highest compared to other allocations that have gone to security. And
which has been predominantly taking the lion's share of our budget.
Yes, because jointly I think it's about 7 trillion that is going to education and health, if I'm not wrong, of which health is not exceeding 2 trillion. So I think it's around 1.4 to 1.5.
Yet we paint signature to some declaration.
Yes, yes.
So and committing ourselves to a 15%.
Yes, which is 15, and this is 7% for sure. And with the pandemic, we even needed more. So that is why I was telling you that the risks of preserving and maintaining essential services, this budget doesn't reflect that. Yes. Although I commend government for the 500 billion of, you know, the vaccines, we are relying on India that is now hit. Yeah. So when you look at, and then you look at social development, I believe that one other thing that would benefit young people is things to do with the youth fund. Things like Emioga, that is there.
Of late now, even have the parish that is development model.
Yes.
Over 200 billion there, and where each parish will be getting about 38 billion.
Yes.
I don't know, in your opinion, is this much enough for a drop in an ocean? Will it see significance, or it's simply being everywhere but nowhere?
For me, one of my biggest challenges is that we've had initiatives that have attempted to directly impact on the population from down, even young people. But when the issue that will eventually come is whether whether that allocation is actually going to reach people. It's efficacy. It's efficient.
Well, it's now coming at parish level. The monies are going at parish level.
So many funds,
very close to the youth than ever before.
So many funds have been disbursed the same way to young people. We can talk about the youth fund before. It used to go that district would vet, and then you would apply to a bank, and then you would get the money. But the question is that right now we cannot talk of so many businesses that can say, because of the youth fund, I was able to, and yet neighboring countries have implemented similar funds. Can't we talk of
so many businesses because the resource envelope was a bit little, and of course the impact maybe will not be felt?
That was a revolving fund. It was you pay, you're given the money,
yes,
and then you pay back after some time. But the challenge was that it was politicized at a certain point. These people were supposed to be vetted through a certain process before removing the fund. But certain politicians from certain constituencies intervene and, say, you're denying my people this money. And people affect qualifications to be able to get that money. So some of the businesses were not sound. So eventually, the fund lost its meaning. So it's a whole lot of things that led to its failure. But one of it is that for the many interventions that we have always come with as a country, I think we've had a challenge in realizing its intended objectives. Yes, we always rename them, and come up with new initiatives. But I really would commend government for coming up with that. There's no wrong, there's no exact formula for the success of a policy or an intervention. You try it and you see, but the issue is that its implementation should always be strict to that dot.
So that we avoid people running when they hear that you failed to pay money, then some politicizing it. Let's wait and see when it finally kicks off. But the monies were well put in the budget, and of course we know parishes that will be organized will then benefit from these monies. Let's look at the taxes. Recently we saw Parliament pass tax bills. How are they affecting the youth? Among was the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill of 2021. We had the Fish Amendment Bill 2001. We had the Mining Amendment Bill. Here, actually, most of this sector is dominated by the youth. Not as proprietors, but more so as people that do the donkey work there. Then we had the Fuel Amendment Bill. Here, many have made noise about it, 100 shilling added and all this. Will this be reflected at the pump price? There's so much there. Then we had the Income Tax Bill, where this goes also to some of the things there, the data and all that. So, Emma, how are these affecting the youth?
You see, when every year government will always have tax bills presented and passed, it's always done as such because government has a target of raising resources, but at the same time, taxes play more than the role beyond raising only revenue. For me, the biggest concern that one, the TPCA, the Tax Procedure Code Act, at a certain point it introduces general powers of arrest for people who are not complying, which is okay, because customs already had those powers. But my concerns are with the definition of tax decision, where to a certain point, under things to do with private ruling, Uganda Revenue Authority, the interpretation of a Commissioner General on how you should treat a particular tax matter will no longer be binding on the Commissioner General, which means that if you're guided, if you act according to on how you should treat a particular tax matter, and later you are again, for example, assessed, and then you claim that, but it was on your guidance that I was able to treat this matter as such, you can no longer claim that because when a commissioner gives you a private ruling, it's binding on them. Removing that binding aspect will create a lot of trust issues, which is very necessary for incentivizing the will to pay taxes or the effort to pay taxes. You get distancing yourself from it would be, as a tax collector, would be the issue. So the exception in that TPCA, the Tax Procedures Code Act, the exception to the definition of what becomes a tax decision that has been introduced by URA, I think is a response to certain legal challenges that were fronted in court many times when URA has made private. So they are now washing their hands, and I think that, and me, I think that is, no, that's something I disagree with. It will be a disadvantage to them because people will be discouraged at a certain point as the implementation of the tax laws continue. Then for the young person, is that 12% on internet. The pandemic showed us that we can actually run businesses digitally. If we had invested for a long time significantly in our digital sector, we would have not had a big challenge in, because during the pandemic we encouraged more of deliveries. Because I would look at a situation where during the pandemic we could, for example, you could order for food and you pay it through mobile money, a safe border delivers it, you pay him cashless. So that is the kind of system that I would have projected. Now, when you start taxing, I don't even know how the 12% was arrived at. When you start taxing internet data, of course you're presenting a barrier. Look at now the budget for digital transformation. I think it's around 134 billion. That is really small, especially given the fact that COVID-19 has showed us that we need to go digitally. And for me,
I would argue that it's one of the fastest growing sectors in this country, and therefore it is taxable. It gives a bigger opportunity to tax.
You see, they always say that you're trying to fatten the bull on a market day. You should, it's a process. You should keep grazing it over time and such that on the market day it's now fattened. So it's like we are taxing it so soon. And we are not saying you shouldn't tax it, but how do you arrive at 12%?
When we tried using OTT, you guys tried to use VPN, still government. Now this is one avenue that as long as you're going to use data, then you can't dodge. Government will be able to.
The only advantage with that tax is that it's indirect. And because of its indirect nature, well, you will feel the pain, but you have to buy. But now what happens, I have paid on airtime already, excise duty, and I'm again paying when I am using that very airtime, when I transform it into data. It's me, I think that it's, and the OTT failed. You're referring to the OTT, it failed. It was not only about us using VPN, it just wasn't a good tax because people could avoid paying it. And so it failed beyond to reach its target. But I think that we can tax the sector, but we must do so carefully. 12% I think would shoot the cost of internet high, which would still be a challenge for the growth of the sector, which will be felt in the long time. Yes.
Well, Emma, let me get your final remarks as we've been discussing tax bill, budget proposals, impact on the youth and challenges, plus opportunities therein.
For me, I would say that the current budget has somehow factored in the current challenges of COVID-19. There are opportunities for young people. There are funds like Emyoga Youth Fund and the like that are still available. My only challenge, my only worry is with the human capital development, the program. The challenge is on the health sector. It doesn't respond well to issues pertaining to sexual reproductive health. There's a budget cut there. And then I think that it's also below the 15% that is required. It's 7% for sure. Education is the same. It's below 10%. And with all the pregnancies and the dropouts, I think that those are sectors that should have been strengthened and reinforced with enough resources to be able to respond to the challenge that has already been posed by COVID-19. With taxes, I think that it's already there. We just have to see its outcome, but I think some negative effects will will be felt, especially with issues like the fuel increases and the like. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I want to thank you, Emmanuel Ajaro, who is the ED Open or Executive Director, Open Forum Initiative that brings and analyzes some of these proposals, most of tax proposals, the budget proposals, and creates more awareness regarding this. We've been looking at the impact of the tax bills and the budget on the youth, who are the majority of Ugandans. Please interest yourselves in this. Your input matters, yet it might be too late, but still better understand. Maybe next time you participate more to come up with a budget of the budget that you really want. Well, I'll leave you with Ruben Pima Chibira. I'm going to take you through sports updates. Then later on, Jagenda Semakura will join to take you through Good Morning Uganda Extra. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Please remain peaceful. Avoid any gatherings, any information that can lead you into illegal activities that you'll regret later. Have a lovely day. God bless you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.